Tuukka Rask never quite got the love he deserved in Boston, and I'm here to change that on this bonus happy birthday episode of Locked On Boston Bruins.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. I'm your host, Ian McLaren. I am a lifelong Boston Bruins fan, and I have been covering this team and the NHL for various major outlets for nearly 20 years. Today is Tuesday, March 10th. It is Tuukka Rask's 39th birthday as Bessie makes an appearance on the podcast, and we are here to celebrate the best goaltender in Boston Bruins history. Yep, I said it. The Bruins take on the Kings tonight at TD Garden, going for their 13th straight home win. I previewed that on the previous episode of Locked On Boston Bruins, so go check that out if you have not done so already. But for this special bonus episode, Tuukka Rask's 39th birthday, I'm here to discuss his legacy and why he deserves so much more love than he received when he was active as a player for the Boston Bruins. The Bruins have had Hall of Famers in net, Stanley Cup champions, true legends, but the best goalie in franchise history is the kid from Finland who never got that appreciation. And again, we're going to break down why he's the greatest goalie in Bruins history, his misunderstood legacy, and how his impact is still shaping the goaltending for the Boston Bruins. Look, the biggest takeaway here, he's the best goalie in Bruins history, straight up. And the numbers are pretty overwhelming. 308 wins, which is a franchise record, a .921 career save percentage, 2.28 goals against average, 52 shutouts, and a Vezina Trophy in 2014. And one of the knocks against Tuukka Rask is that, well, he never won a Stanley Cup and he was not able to succeed in the playoffs. And yes, the Boston Bruins did not win a Stanley Cup while he was the starter for this team. They won in 2011. He was the backup to Tim Thomas. He had been the starter in the previous year and was the goalie of record when the Bruins, lost to the Flyers in that reverse sweep. But Rask's numbers, again, his regular season save percentage, .921. His regular season goals against average, .228. His numbers actually improve in the postseason. His career playoff save percentage is .925. And he had a 2.22 playoff goals against average, 57 playoff wins. Statistically speaking, there has never been a Bruins goalie as consistently dominant. Yeah, you had Tim Thomas, with all due respect, and of course, we love Tim Thomas around here. He had that unbelievable run in 2011, but he did not have the longevity of a Tuukka Rask. Rask played 564 career games in the regular season for the Boston Bruins, as well as a ton of playoff appearances. Tim Thomas, he came to Boston kind of at not the tail end, but kind of the reclamation stage of his career. And regular season-wise, he played in far fewer games. 426 total, some with the Panthers, a few with the Stars, but, a couple seasons fewer than Tuukka Rask. And while he was impressive, .920 save percentage, Tuukka Rask did it for straight out longer, like well into 2022 after going through that surgery. So that's one reason. And it shows up in the fact that Rask is the regular season leader in terms of wins for this team. Tim Thomas is close. Gerry Cheevers, Tiny Thompson, even back in the day. Great goaltenders, but Rask's longevity and elite efficiency is unmatched in Boston Bruins history. Now, don't forget, he came to the Bruins thanks to the Toronto Maple Leafs. He was drafted by Toronto in 2005, traded to Boston for Andrew Raycroft in 2006. One of the most lopsided goalie trades ever. The Bruins ended up getting their franchise goalie for like 15 years, while Andrew Raycroft kind of fell off as a member of the Toronto Maple Leafs. He did not win a Stanley Cup with the Boston Bruins as the starter, but the 2013 playoff run for Tuukka Rask is one of the best goaltending performances in modern NHL playoff history. A .940 save percentage, and he was in net for that Game 7 comeback versus the Leafs. He helped shut down like Peak, Crosby, Malkin, and the Pittsburgh Penguins, and very nearly stole the cup from the Chicago Blackhawks. And were it not for some key injuries for the Bruins, and that was 2 goals in 17 seconds, then perhaps he would have had that Stanley Cup to his name. Either way, .940 save percentage through the playoffs. Like, that is unbelievable over the course of 22 games. And he fell a couple wins short, but very much in Conn Smythe consideration that season. And if the Bruins had won, 100%, he's the Conn Smythe Trophy winner, although David Krejci had a pretty remarkable run that year as well. And that's not all that Tuukka Rask accomplished in his career. We're going to continue breaking down his legacy and celebrate the man that he was, the man that he is, the man that he will always be remembered as, here as this bonus episode of Locked On Boston Bruins continues. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill is still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. They help you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for in terms of skills, experience, and location, so you're not just hoping the right candidates stumble across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute we've been talking, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. Spend less time searching, more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. When the pressure is on, you need Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Go to Indeed.com/podcast right now. Support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. If you need to hire, you need Indeed sponsored job. College basketball is nonstop this time of year. Big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night. From early tip-offs to late-night West Coast shootouts, there's always action on the board. And now FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. You can build any college hoops parlay you want, rivalry games, ranked matchups, whatever fits your preferences. And you can mix spreads, totals, and player props to match how you see the slate playing out. Apply the profit boost and instantly bump up the potential payout. Go safe, go bold, ride with the team you've been following all season. It's your parlay, your style, now with more upside behind it. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. At FanDuel, you can play your game. Tuukka Rask is, without question, the greatest Bruins goaltender of all time. Now, the comparison, of course, is Tim Thomas because he won the Stanley Cup with the Boston Bruins in 2011. That's the guy that we remember most. There are examples from the past, Gerry Cheevers, Tiny Thompson, etc. But the fact that Rask immediately followed Tim Thomas, who effectively stole a Stanley Cup away from the Vancouver Canucks, it hurts Rask's ultimate legacy, right? Tim Thomas won a Conn Smythe. He was the 2011 Stanley Cup hero and a pretty iconic personality to boot, which kind of backfired when he didn't go to the White House, but still, he was a guy who we all loved and revered because he, won that cup. He was also a 2-time winner of the Vezina Trophy in 2009 and 2011 as the NHL's best goaltender. But for me, Rask gets a bit of a bump because he has that more longer run with the Boston Bruins, even though he's quieter, more technical, less flashy, perhaps. People boost Thomas, and rightly so. It's like a impossible debate in some ways, but the common narrative that Rask couldn't win the big one, and that's why he is knocked down a peg below Thomas, doesn't really hold up, because I already talked about the 2013 run to the Stanley Cup Final, in which he had a .940 save percentage. I can't say that enough. 22 games, 1,466 minutes played, 46 goals allowed, a 1.88 goals against average, and a .940 save percentage. It's insane how good he was that season. The Bruins also got back to the Stanley Cup Final in 2019, and a .934 save percentage for Tuukka Rask in those 24 games. And again, he was a Conn Smythe Trophy candidate, if not favorite, that year. And the Bruins just were not able to beat Jordan Binnington early. The score in that Game 7, 2019, should have been 4-0, 4-1 after 20 minutes. Jordan Binnington made some unreal saves in the first period. The Bruins made a couple miscues, and you play that game 100 times, the Bruins win, let's say 97. And Tuukka Rask, again, if the Bruins had been able to score that game, he would have won the Conn Smythe. It wasn't on him that they lost that game. It wasn't on him that they lost in 2013. He's the goalie of record, but you say he couldn't win the big one. Well, why do Patrice Bergeron, David Krejci, why don't they get that same knock? Zdeno Chara, why don't they get that same knock on their records? Just because Rask was the goalie, those, especially Game 7, 2019, that was not his malperformance that resulted in that game. One of the best playoff goalies of his generation, who just happened to be on the wrong side of a couple Stanley Cup Finals. 2019, again, one of the most dominant playoff runs ever by a Bruins goalie. He carried the Bruins to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. You look back at that team, they didn't really have much business being in the Stanley Cup Final that year. You have Carson Kuhlman on your top line in a Game 7, and you're blaming the goalie? I mean, come on. He also had an underrated personality. People forget how funny, self-aware he was, blunt media quotes, sarcastic sense of humor, fiercely competitive, throwing milk crates. Teammates loved him, and his legacy carries on today. You see Boston's goalie development, Bob Essensa shaping and molding so many high-end goaltenders, and their identity is largely built around elite goaltending. It went from Tim Thomas to Tuukka Rask to Linus Ullmark, now to Jeremy Swayman and Jonas Korpisalo on a good night. Rask largely set that standard. Tim Thomas blew it out of the water, but Rask, consistent longevity year after year, and taking Bruins teams that had no business going to the Stanley Cup Final, arguably, especially in 2019, all the way to the promised land, except for that one lone win missing. He might not have gotten the love he deserved while he played, but history is correcting that. When the dust settles, he'll be remembered as a franchise win leader, Vezina Trophy winner, 2 Stanley Cup Finals. He does have his name on the cup in 2011. One of the best goalies of his generation, and he should be in the Hall of Fame when it's all said and done. A Bruins legend, one of the best of his generation. Happy birthday, Tuukka Rask. Where do you rank Tuukka Rask among Bruins greats? Let me know in the comments. Hit me up on social at Locked NHL Bruins. On tomorrow's show, we'll be back to recap whatever happens tonight against the Los Angeles Kings. your favorite podcast app, and on YouTube so that you do not miss a thing. Follow along at Locked NHL Bruins on TikTok, Instagram, Threads. Check out the Everydayer Club at lockedonbruins.supercast.com. Use code March right now to get a free month on us and join our March Madness bracket. So much going on right now with the Bruins. I'm here to recap it all because this is Locked On Boston Bruins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your favorite team every single day.